Get our next guest's opinion on that. President Coach Steve Cleveland, welcome back to the program. A lot of energy in that first segment. I hope you're ready.
Yeah. You're off the charts, yeah.
Let's ask you our Twitter question to start. At what DEFCON level are you with BYU basketball?
You know, that's not really how my mind works and thinks, okay? And I think I kind of have to separate myself from being a fan, and I'm a lot less a fan than I am a coach. And I look at this game probably different than most fans, and that you look at it as well. So, you know, throwing a number out there, what I'm looking at is how is this team going to improve, and what are the things that we have to do today in practice, and why have some of the things appeared in road losses? And so I'm not sure I can give you a number.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm probably not going to give you a number. All right. But what I will give you is this. One thought. When you know you have a young team and you're going to protect that young team and you want to get winnable games, you want confidence building opportunities. They played some outstanding teams in neutral sites. Illinois, St. Louis. St. Louis ended up not being an outstanding team.
Valpo,
USC. Great experiences to play against different types of teams than they're going to face in the WCC. What they didn't play in that preseason is a legitimate road game. And so when you look at the 3 road games that BYU has played at LMU, at St. Mary's, a very good St. Mary's team, and San Diego, BYU has not played well like they've played at home. I wonder if maybe a couple of opportunities for this younger team to be on the road early on and get a sense and a feel, because everybody plays better on their home court. They shoot the ball, they play with more confidence. And to have that first experience be in conference play is not an easy one.
And maybe Dave and the staff wanted to protect the young group in the early going to get them going, but maybe in a way it backfired.
And I think looking at that, and because it is a good schedule, there were some really good games.
Yeah.
And so I prepared them a lot of ways, but you can't prepare a team to play on the road in a conference setting without playing some of those types of games. And so I think in the future that might be something that they'll look at. Now they may not need to, because this team a year from now will be much different than it is today. And so as I look at where the expectations are for this team, I agree, they're kind of been off the charts. We've already addressed that. I think we got all the Final Four flags taken down securely, put in a box somewhere. We dealt with that earlier on, okay? But I think what the fan base has to understand is this. You do have some outstanding talent here. All right, it's good young talent. It was high school talent. And yes, they were ranked high and rated high, and they are very good players. But what they lack is experience. And I think that playing at Payson High School or American Fork or somewhere else where someone's come from in Washington or back in Georgia, it's not the same thing. And so I think as fans, we read and we get excited and we start sensing and talking about things. But at the end of the day, this is a really good basketball team. They're not a great basketball team yet. Until they can learn how to play on the road and play with poise, play with composure, not make silly mistakes, which are the words of Coach Rose in his post-game conference. Those are his words, not mine. When they learn to defend and do the little things that they have to do, they'll get better. And I think they do have the opportunity still to get to the NCAA tournament, but it will require a win probably over at St. Mary's and Gonzaga both.
What do you think is the biggest thing right now keeping this team from maybe living up to what they want to be?
It's at the defensive end. It's at the defensive end. I watched the game twice. I watched it this morning again. I just wanted to get an idea and a thought so I could share thoughts. Dribble penetration continues to be a problem, okay? And it happened against the bigs. Late in that game, they had small, skilled bigs, and both Eric Mika and Yoli Childs had a hard time containing the dribble. They got to the rim. Another thing that BYU needs to do a better job of is to get in a stance and stay in a stance. And Coach Rose is a great defensive teacher. He coached the defense for 4 years with me. I know that he understands those things, but it does, even when you understand it, it takes time to learn. If you've never really guarded in high school or in junior college or wherever you've come from, it takes time to learn how to stay in a stance, have that discipline, contest every shot. Contest every shot. The thing that really hurt BYU in the last 3 minutes in that game, they lost vision. So all of a sudden, they've got their man here, and they start looking at the ball. Rather than looking at the ball and the man and seeing both, they start looking at the ball, backdoor cut. 2 backdoor layups late in that game, just at the rim. That's too easy. And when you go on the road, you win with defense and rebounding and get to the free throw line. And the other thing, I think some credit needs to be given to San Diego. Lamont Smith did a great job putting a game plan together. I'm not sure why you would not double team Eric Mika. He is a load individually by himself. They doubled him from the top, from the bottom. They sent guards. They had a scheme that was really effective. And Eric was a non-factor in that game offensively, where this team depends on him. And nobody else besides TJ was really able to step up. And so give credit to San Diego for putting a great game plan together, and BYU can still win on the road when they don't score 80 points if they guard.
President Coach Steve Cleveland weighing in today on BYU Sports Nation, the show after BYU loses to San Diego. The Cougars continue conference play with Pepperdine coming up Thursday. So what does BYU maybe need to do this week to try and help themselves get in a position where maybe the NCAA tournament's a possibility later?
Well, I don't think they're talking about the NCAA tournament.
That's what we talk about.
You know, that's what you talk about. What they're talking about right now, that coaching staff right now, pretty sure right at this moment are all watching film. And they're going to have a coach's staff meeting.
Right after they watch this show.
Right after they watch the game. And they're going to be talking about how we can get better. And they're going to look at each individual player. They're going to look at matchups. You know, Davin Gwynn, he ends up guarding Olin Connor. He does not score. He just is like glued to him. Now, there are things Davin Gwynn has to do to get better offensively in other parts of the game. Elijah Bryant has the ability to have some toughness and defend without fouling. He's got to learn how to do that without fouling. So there are some answers there, maybe some substitution patterns, whatever the coaching staff decides they want to do. But at the defensive end right now, they're going to focus on that. And then they're going to play well at home. And Pepperdine is not very good this year. They had some transfers leave. Pepperdine has been a real thorn in BYU's side the last 2 or 3 years. These had good teams, and they've got good players. And this year, they're down a little bit. So I don't think there's any question that BYU is going to win Thursday. You know, they'll come out and play, and they're going to be excited and fired up. But I think what that coaching staff wants to see is, did we get better defensively? Let's go watch the film when the game's over, not what the fan watches, okay, from the outside. From a set of eyes that watches film, is that player in a stance? Are we contesting shots? Are we blocking out? I think even more important than Coach Rose and his staff teaching this and making them accountable is that when will the players step up and make each other accountable? And whether it's a Travis Hansen or a Mike Hall or a Trent Whiting or a Terrell Day, the people that Dave and I both coached together, those players kept their teammates accountable. And when somebody didn't guard and somebody gave a breakdown, guys got into their face a little bit. And I'm not suggesting that we go around and scream at each other, but sometimes players need to make each other accountable. And I think you can do that with respect and understand that we both have the same goal in mind.
I love screaming at Spencer, so I totally relate to that.
Yeah. It's something that he feels works.
Let's go, transition to break, man.
I wanted to play off something that you mentioned a moment ago. There are some things that are working and some things that BYU, when they are executing, you're like, okay, that's really working. What are those things that you're seeing that BYU is doing positively and that you feel they can build off of?
Well, I think offensively, they're first of all, individually, they're skilled. And they have good instincts individually. And they're unselfish. They share the ball. Occasionally, they'll take contested shots. They'll take early shots. And those are shots that the coaching staff will take care of. But at the end of the day, I think offensively, they've had a pretty good flow. I think it's been in the late game situations, especially like Saturday, where they lost their composure a little bit. They lost their poise, as Coach Rose said. And they got a little bit nervous, and they got tight. And when you get nervous and tight, you get away from the things that you're pretty good at. Inside out's been good. It's been really good. Now, a team makes an adjustment and says, we're not giving you the inside. We're going to put 2 or 3 people around it. How do we counter that? And I've watched games where they've been doubled, and they do have some counters where we make a pass out, make an additional pass, and maybe go back inside. But it's one of those things that sometimes offensively, they get in a little bit impatient and they get in a hurry. But for the most part, offensively, they've been really solid, and they can score in transition as well as anybody. And they do share the ball. So I think that's the positive. They've been a good rebounding team. They rebound out. I mean, obviously a big part of it's Yoli Childs and Eric Mika. They rebound out of their area. They're active, and so they're a very good rebounding team. I think that BYU shores up the defensive ends of things and can win on the road. Or win at home against St. Mary's or Gonzaga, they're going to have to guard, and they're going to have to rebound, and you're going to have to value every single possession. There are times this team will take possessions off, offensively and defensively, and it doesn't matter. You don't see it. It doesn't make itself visible against when you're up 20, but when you're playing teams like St. Mary's or Gonzaga or other teams on the road, I can tell you right now that Santa Clara and UOP, even though they got drilled here, those will be games that BYU will have to really be prepared for, because they're going to change. They have film to watch. They weren't as bad as they looked when they were here, and BYU probably not as good as they looked playing at home. And so things get equal. When San Diego comes now, BYU is going to be very prepared for them. But the Santa Clara game and the UOP game, those are games that certainly BYU can, and I think the coaching staff and certainly the fans all feel they should win. But at the end of the day, those will be much tougher tests for BYU.
A regression to the mean, definitely. BYU against Pepperdine coming up Thursday night on BYUtv, then BYU at UOP Pacific, as you mentioned. President Coach Cleveland, we appreciate the time and the takes, always.
Oh, good to be with you.
He watched the game this morning again.
Watched it twice.
Just to bring you that kind of analysis. Awesome stuff.